Sí, ¿no? Los voy a ver aquí, Ángel, a la gente, ¿o no? Voy a ir,
Ya estás en directo.
Vale. Los voy a ver aquí, Ángel, a la gente, ¿o vale, no? Voy a ir. ¡Oh!
Ya estás en directo.
Vale. Vale. Los voy a ver aquí, Ángel, a la gente, bueno. Bueno, buenas tardes a todos. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. And thank you to be here with us. Vale, vale. Los voy a ver aquí, Ángel, a la gente, bueno. Bueno, buenas tardes a todos. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. And thank you to be here with us. Vale, vale. Los voy a ver aquí, Ángel, a la gente, bueno. Bueno, el objeto de esta charla. Bueno, buenas tardes a todos. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. And
Rodolfo, estás muteado.
bueno, creo que esta es la buena. Creo que por fin he entendido qué es lo que hay que hacer para que esto se oiga bien y no se me oiga en bucle. Entonces, buenas tardes a todo el mundo por haber venido, por asistir a esta charla. El objeto de la charla es tener la ocasión de discutir con Laila Abbas, que es directora y guionista palestina. Ella vive en Ramallah y trabaja en Ramallah. Estuvo estudiando en su momento en Jordania, se formó como cineasta en Jordania y en Inglaterra. Y es, aparte de conocer más de cerca su trabajo, explorar un poco y tratar de acercarnos a qué es trabajar y crear y escribir para la imagen en un contexto tan complicado como es el que se está viviendo en Palestina y más concretamente en Gaza en los últimos tiempos. Para llevar la conversación está con nosotros Marta Armengol, que es guionista, socia del GAC, es traductora también y tiene mucha experiencia en hacer entrevistas muy bien hechas a otros compañeros de profesión. Entonces yo estoy convencido de que va a salir una charla muy interesante, espero que la disfrutéis. Me gustaría deciros todo esto en inglés para los que quizá os habéis conectado desde otros lugares, desde otras de Europa. No soy capaz. Entonces, estoy muy nervioso, entonces simplemente os dejo con ellas. Yo ahora desaparezco de aquí y os quedáis con ellas. La charla durará más o menos una hora. Si tenéis preguntas, las podéis hacer a través del chat de YouTube. Y en principio la charla durará una hora, luego se dará tiempo al turno de preguntas, ¿de acuerdo? Bueno, pues sin más os dejo con Laila y con Marta.
Muchas gracias, Rodolfo, y bienvenidos todos. Hi, Laila. It's so wonderful to see you again.
Hi.
I would like to, well, first of all, thank you for your time. And I would like to ask, well, Rodolfo already mentioned you're in Ramallah right now. How are you and what's the situation like over there?
Thank you, Marta, and thank you, Rudolf and Faga, for organizing this. I am currently in Ramallah, in the West Bank, in Palestine. And I was thinking to myself that I would like to keep it a bit light today, so I will not really burden you with a lot of politics about what's going on. And I think everybody knows what is going on and how difficult it is right now. And you feel free to ask me as many details as you want about, what's going on politically. But I know this is not the focus of our talk today. So to answer shortly about how I am, I'm trying hard to stay alive, to stay positive, to stay productive, even in the worst days. Easier said than done, of course. But for the past 2 years, I think it was a chance for all of us, and maybe not only in Palestine, everywhere, to go back to asking ourselves many, many big questions about what we stand for as human beings. What is this world that we live in? Is this how our children, how we want our children to live in the future? Things are changing drastically, technologically, politically. We have a lot of lunatics running the world right now. So things are moving really, really quickly. And in Palestine, it's probably harder than our life is harder than most other people in the on the globe right now. But I think also, I mean, I don't like to think that we are defeated in any way, but we're not victorious either. The only silver lining maybe in the past 2 years is this wave of awareness that we felt really everywhere around the world. And probably that's the only good thing that happened. We have many, many more people who understand who we are and what we're struggling for. And that's it for now.
So do you think that there's an awareness now that there wasn't before?
Absolutely, absolutely. And, previously when I used to travel to other places, I would get, different reactions when I say Palestine. If usually some people wouldn't know at all what I'm talking about. People would cringe, because if they're aligned with people who do not recognize us as as people to start with. But now it's very polarized. It's, two sides of the spectrum. You either get a lot of love and support or a lot of hate and aggression. And that's fine. That's fine. At least things are clear now. We're not in that gray area anymore as a people. And people do recognize us. And again, they either really stand with us or be on the other side of the spectrum. But things are much, much clearer now. And why I think there are changes in the world. And I think now Palestine represents more than Palestine, really. It represents the people's yearning to express that there is another version of life or of being that they desire. A version where we care more about each other, a version where this division between white and non-white, Europeans and non-Europeans, third worlders and first worlders. Many people are starting to wanting to break free from this. And the thousands of people in Spain, in Europe, who flooded to the streets to say we support Palestine, and some of them, chanted that they want a global intifada. And it's actually really, it's great that it's about Palestine, but I think deep down it's even more about us as human beings in general. Something also that I noticed and was very, very uplifting for me, seeing a lot of content being created online by all kinds of people, in all languages, telling what they think about what's going on, or, you know, commenting on what's happening in Gaza. And most interestingly, I think, seeing a lot of young people from around the world, and mainly the US, because in our heads, it's always, you know, the US is a continent of its own. It doesn't care about the rest of the world. You know, it's all about them all the time. But seeing American youth get this much invested in a cause happening overseas, that's something. And what's interesting about those young people in particular is that they have done a lot of research on what the root of the cause of the problem is, and they would teach each other, and they would create this massive content about Palestine. So all of a sudden, we're not the only narrators of our story. So many people joined in with their own versions of how to tell it. Sometimes even more creative than us, you know, we're so used to things. People would see it or discover Palestine now and express what they see in ways that are even fresh to us. And that is amazing.
Just hearing you talk right now, it popped into my mind that sometimes, or I believe when we get a movie from a distant country that we don't know very well, and this movie is well received and it wins awards and people are talking about it, I think the coverage and the way we talk about this movie, we never stop to think about how hard this movie must have been to make, or what industry it comes from, or why did we get this movie and not another movie from the same region. So I wanted to ask about the before. Could you give us some context about the Palestinian audiovisual industry before the start of this war?
I don't want to go back a lot in history, but I think for our viewers, it's good to give a small, brief historical context. In Palestine, things really kicked off cinematically in the 70s, late 60s, 70s. And at that time, it was pretty much one kind of cinema, which was documentary form, militant cinema, you know, trying explicitly telling other people around the world what the cause is all about, and mainly propaganda or education, if you want, but also great way of documenting those periods of times and what Palestinians went through in these periods. But then, due to political changes and everything, that kind of stopped in the 70s. And unfortunately, most of that archive was lost in Lebanon, mainly with the Israeli invasion. People did not manage to save the archives, the film reels of those films. Many of these got lost. Every now and then, a documentary from that era pops up somewhere. But the big bulk of them got completely lost. After that, in the 80s, that wave stopped and something else came about. It became more individualistic, in the sense that a filmmaker would tell a more personal story and not the story of the cause in general. And that was probably, it was the time when Michel Khlefi, one of the early filmmakers in Palestine, one of the pioneers, who made a film called Fertile Memory. And then he made another, that was a documentary. Then he made a film that actually traveled a lot and was recognized, and it was in Cannes. And for the first time, something coming out of Palestine gets this amount of recognition. It's called Wedding in Galilee. That's the film. And from that point on, it was all about individual filmmakers taking the burden upon themselves to carry their projects, write them, try to find ways to finance them, and release them. Many of them live abroad, and some of them live inside Palestine. And it's very difficult even before the war, because there are very, very little resources available for filmmakers, especially the ones inside. So we always tell each other that, you know, we must be mad to actually do this. There's no logical reason for us to pursue this impossible mission, but we still do. And so it takes forever sometimes to make a project, 6 years, 7 years, and definitely things are easier for people outside. They have more resources. Their movement is easier. The resources are more if they're, you know, if they have a European nationality or an American, or they have more resources to juggle with. But I would say on a good year, we will have 2 feature films, 3 if it's a very, very year. That's the scale we're talking about. So with this scale, it's very hard to really develop an industry where people live and be occupied, you know, whether they're cast or crew or writer or director, to be occupied full time doing this, because there's no industry. And it's sad because many of these people, these especially young people who you know, specialize in lighting or editing, and they really need to find ways to sustain themselves, because you know, feature films, they do make their short films or you know, films for the community, or corporate videos or something to sustain themselves, and that's on a normal Palestinian year. The last 2 years have been very, very different, way more challenging. And I was probably lucky that I finished shooting my feature film right before October 2023. But many others were scheduled to shoot after me, and they really struggled, and they ended up going to other places to shoot, in Jordan, in Cyprus, in anywhere that looks like Palestine, Mediterranean, basically. So, yeah.
I just wanted to clarify for any Spanish writers and filmmakers who are listening that it is not rare for a project to take 6 or 7 years to make it made in Spain either. So we know the feeling. But I wanted to know about your career and your process specifically. And you're mentioning your last feature. Thank you for banking with us. Could you walk us through a little bit what that process was like, when that project started, when you finally got clear to shoot and prepared the shoot? And then what was it like to do post during the war?
Right. I started writing the project in 2018. And the writing itself didn't take time, but because I had a lot of time waiting for the financing to come in, I wrote and rewrote. But yeah, it took a long time to get the money together, and not the full budget. At the very end, we had to do it with less. And I'm glad we did it with less and not waited longer. But there were a lot of times along the way where I felt it's never going to happen, never going to happen. And, you know, you get this fund, that other fund falls apart, that other one is about to expire. And keeping all that was very, very hectic, really. And, you know, I worked with producers where they also had other projects, and they're not my project is not their only concern all the time. And also I went through the experience of partnering with someone from Europe to be able to, access European funding as well. As for me, it's not possible. And that also has its challenges. And I partnered with a German producer. That also creates, I mean, yes, it definitely brings something interesting to the table, because some of the crew were also from abroad, but also complicates things when in terms of I don't want to say at least for the rhythm. Who controls the rhythm and all that when it comes to the production, and and who has more power to say when things should be done? Or it's not easy, but I navigated it, thankfully, successfully, with a lot of pain, but
I'm interested to know where does the funding come from when you finally manage to access that funding? You mentioned European funds. What are other sources that you can go to as a Palestinian filmmaker?
Usually, not only for Palestine, for people in the region, in the Middle East. I hate to call it the Middle East, because that's, it's for us, we're not in the East, and we're
it works how you
very Eurocentric, but anyway.
Certainly.
But I prefer to call it the Arab world. That's what feels.
There you go. That's fine. Yeah, absolutely.
Feels more like home when you say it like this. So basically, in the Arab world, there are a few regional funds where all of us apply for, and that's good. But that also makes it way more competitive when all the MENA region are applying for the same fund, but there's the one in Qatar, in Lebanon, in Egypt, in the Red Sea now, or the film festival. They also give sizable funding, and I got from all those, basically. So once the region was done, then my German producer applied for funds in Germany.
And so for these funds in the Arab world, you're not just competing with your own country, it's any filmmaker from that region who are all applying and competing for the same funds.
Right.
Okay. Wow. Wow. So what was the post-production process? You've mentioned you finished your shoot right before the war started. What happened then? Did you have difficulty maybe, I don't know, even getting in touch with your film editor, or being able to get together to actually make this film?
The thing is, I traveled to Germany in October, right before the war started, to start editing there. Gosh. And being in Germany when there's a genocide happening,
I can imagine.
It's not fun at all. But I was there. And, part of the European funding also does this. And I understand, I mean, when they give you funding, they want the funding to be spent in that country. So the whole post-production and sound and everything, every step of the way in the post-production had to be done in Germany. So at that time I was there, I edited the film. The worst 3 months of my life, but that's political, not because the process of editing itself was bad, but it was it was winter in Germany with a genocide back home, so you can imagine. And also not knowing who to speak to there and what to express and what. You get a little paranoid also there, but on the other side, I discovered communities of German people and non-German people living in Germany who started to organize marches and go out to the streets, and so I found my community at the end, and did not feel very estranged anymore. So that was an experience, very tough, but it was an experience. And then I went back home because we ran out of money and we could not finish the final steps of the post-production. So we had to wait a few months more. And by that time, it was very, very difficult to leave Palestine. So I did the final sound mixing and grading online, which is very,
Yeah.
very difficult with German technicians. We're trying to find our language, to understand each other, and also do it remotely. And they would send me the stuff, and I would hear it, and it was really, really challenging.
It sounds very rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe last time we spoke, your movie was about to premiere in Palestine. You were excited to have your premiere, to have the entire crew there. What was that like? And then also going off something that you also said the previous time we spoke, has your perception of the project changed because of the war?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, the first part of your question, it screened last Thursday here in Ramallah. And
congratulations.
Thank you. I was so scared. The scariest screenings for me are the ones here, because Palestinians are a tough crowd. It's
really
not easy to please them, not only artistically, but they would be very critical of things politically as well in the film. And we're always so obsessed about how we're represented. So, because we've been misrepresented by many people around the world for different reasons. When it comes to us representing ourselves, it's very, very tricky. And you would get a lot of feedback on why did you portray us like this? And I was, I wouldn't say worried, but I was curious to see how they're going to respond to my film. But so far, the reception was really, really nice. And I was very proud, because they told me something, that they felt that this is not a film made about them, but a film made for them. And that means a lot to me.
That's a great, yeah. And then and has your perception of the film, the project, changed because of the war?
The timing didn't really play, it was not on my side. Time wasn't on my side, and circumstances as well, because I made a kind of humorous film, light-hearted drama about a very serious topic, but still I tackled it in such a way that it's still humorous at times, dark comedy at times, and the time I released the film, things were not funny at all. So I had to go present the film and, stand on a stage and address the audience, I couldn't do it without referring to what was happening in Palestine, because otherwise I would be, an alien, completely just dropped from space with no context whatsoever. So I had to explain that this film was shot before, and now everything changed, and our priorities changed, and who we are changed. But still, I made that film, and it's somehow still relevant, but not the most relevant at this point.
So how is your work now? So you finished this film, and I imagine you started thinking about working on something new.
Yes.
How, I wanted to ask, my first question is maybe more general, how has whatever film industry there was in Palestine, are filmmakers still active? From what I gather, yes, things are still being done. The situation notwithstanding, there's a will to, you were working under very difficult conditions before, and now it's you will not be crushed. But what's the situation now, and what are you working on right now? And would you say that the war and just the situation in general has affected how you tackle projects? Because what I gather from what you told us is that the projects that get sort of made are sort of very personal things that are raised by a small group of people just out of sheer willpower, because they really want to do this and believe in it. So I'm very curious to know how everyone, and you in particular, are sort of faring creatively.
I think, of course, it's probably different from one person to another. So maybe I'm not in a position to speak about everybody, but from some of the encounters that I had with some fellow filmmakers, I think I can share at least the fact that after the shock, you start thinking about what do I want to say now? What is relevant now? What is the most pressing story or issue? And also when you're dealing with a big trauma, when is the time to talk about it? We watch films now about World War II or and Israelis and the Jewish people, they made films about the Holocaust a lot. But they did all that after the incident itself was finished, and they had time to reflect and then express it in their own way. But now, as things are still unfolding, and you would think that you hit rock bottom. It cannot get any worse than this, and a week later, it's much, much worse. So what is the point where I say, oh yeah, you know what, this is it, I need to talk about this? It's very difficult to think while all the noise around you is like that. And again, there's also the danger of you kind of losing your voice because you want to accommodate what others expect from you at this point, because you're an artist, you speak for the people, and you feel that kind of responsibility that, oh yes, I want to talk about what's happening, I want to get the message across to people everywhere, but is it really what I want to say, or is it the style or the tone that I want to follow? And these questions are hard to answer. And at the very beginning, I felt, no, it's time to become more serious. It's time to change my tone. It's not funny anymore. And also, I think what happens in your head psychologically kind of reflects on what you write or how you write. I'm sure it does. But then after a while, I had very deep conversations with myself about this and what do I really want to say and how? And I think after a while, I managed to, and those moments of being lost and not knowing what story to catch, they're very, very difficult times for me because I kind of find my refuge and a safe haven in the projects I work on, and probably a way of escaping reality as well. But there's another world that I create where I feel safe, where I can control what happens, and having a story living with me keeps me, mentally much stronger. So when I was asking all these questions and not being able to catch any thread to start, it was very tough. And then I don't know, an epiphany, or I don't know what it is, but it came to me. It came to me. The story came to me. And so far, and I don't know if I'll manage to make it, by the way. I'm still writing, and I don't know production-wise or funding-wise if it's going to work or not. But at least I have a story now, and it's present in my life. And I go back home knowing that my characters are waiting for me, and they're waiting for me to develop them a little further. And but still, I think that I did not really shy away completely from the genres that I like and the tones that I like. So yeah, at this point, I think in terms of themes, what I'm tackling right now is America. What is America doing to the world right now? So and actually it came to me when I was reading a poem that was written many, many years ago, actually. And there's a part of it about America. And that part, of course, telling how it was in the 80s, in the early 80s, when America also conspired against us, and in Beirut, and all the massacres that followed, and and it kind of gave me inspiration. Now I need to talk about America. I think we all need to talk about America.
We definitely need to talk about America. Or maybe stop talking. I want to not have any reasons to talk about America anymore, if I'm being honest. But I need to know, what was the poem, and what can you tell us about what you're working on right now? Because you mentioned some things the last time we spoke, and it just sounded delightful. If you, whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Sure. I mean, the poem, it's called Praising the High Shadow, and it's by Mahmoud Darwish, the poet.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very strange poem, very long, very long. But I think what makes it very special for me is that at that point, I think we were completely defeated, you know. It was a very, very tricky moment in our history as Palestinians, when the Palestinian fighters were forced to leave Lebanon, and they were put on ships, and the ships sailed away, not even knowing where to go. It was a moment of defeat, for sure, in retrospect. And I think also at that same time, it was pretty obvious and evident that it was. But what he did in this poem is that he somehow would juggle a complete victory and a complete defeat together. So on one page, you would feel that, we are at the top of the world, ethically, morally. We are standing for what we should be standing for. And on the next page, you feel the defeat again. And he keeps doing this the whole time. And there's a part that it needs translation to English now, so I might not do a good job, but he talks about America being everywhere. You look up, it's America. You look, you open the sardine can, and America's there. You do this, and America's there. And you behind the door, it's America. And now linking this to what's happening in America also, and because I have half of my family living in America, and what they go through also. So I wanted to see how a Palestinian family right now in America experiences a genocide back home, and everything else that is happening in America at this time. How can you still be able to speak while you're not supposed to speak? To become an American right now, a good citizen, you should not speak at all. So that's struggle, but also in a fun way. And there's part of it also is letting my anger come out a little bit, to release my anger about what is happening, and America's role in all of this.
You mentioned earlier about you being worried or curious about what for how your movie would be released because of Palestinian audiences being demanding of Palestinian films. Do you feel that pressure sort of going forward?
In what sense?
In the sense of, well, if you're writing in this particular case where you're writing about Palestinians being abroad, of like, because I know there's always, no, that's not how Palestinians are like, you always get that, well, all Palestinians, that's a very broad statement. So is there something, or are you just letting go and embracing your process and worrying about everything else afterwards?
I think I cannot really silence the critic inside me, and the person, the audience's representative in my head is there all the time. But I don't give him or her all the space at this point. Now I just really need to get the story right and rich. and to spend time with my characters. And the more time I spend with them, the more they actually start to look and feel like people, and they become more believable to me, and they start demanding things as well. And that's where I'm at right now. At the very last stages, when I'm writing, there is a group of trusted people in my life, coming from all walks of life, not only filmmaking. So I sent the final or semi-final draft to these people, and I get their insights on things that I might have missed, things that have to do with, again, representation. And and I simply ask them, what will the audience be mad about? Tell me. It's a reality check. Instead of being yelled at in the theater, could you yell that at me right now while it's still on the
Very
page?
helpful.
Yeah,
it's good
yeah.
to have a friend who yells at us for our own good.
Yeah. I do that. So yeah, but again, I'll worry about this later, because first I need to make sure that I can really achieve this project in terms of funding and production and all these things.
Of course. And are you in touch with many other Palestinian filmmakers? And more generally, is there like an official or unofficial network or association of writers and filmmakers?
Association of writers, definitely not.
Okay.
Association of filmmakers, still not, but at least an unofficial, maybe network, unofficial. We see each other, especially the ones who are here. We actually meet in festivals most of the time. We end up seeing each other in festivals. In terms of networks, there are two main organizations that deal with cinema and production, and and they also organize workshops and things like this, and residencies, and I think these are the two bodies that actually bring filmmakers together every now and then. But no, I mean, sometimes a few months would pass without me seeing any of them or talking or anything. But whenever there's a film screening or somebody releases a new film, or I make sure to go and stay connected.
And is that because you mentioned earlier this funding in the Arab world concerning, is there a strong collaboration also between countries in the region?
I think more and more, it's happening more and more, because also some countries are realizing the value of cinema more than before, I would say. I mean, now Saudi Arabia is really investing a lot of money in the film industry, and it depends on, you need to find the right partners there who, who you agree with ideologically, and yeah, but still, there are possible more and more collaborations happening. Egypt is always in the picture. Qatar also. Now the Maghreb, Tunisia,
Morocco,
Algeria, Morocco, they have collaborations among themselves, but also with France, the being a Francophone country, they always get more audience in France, and also funding collaborations and co-productions and things like that.
And I wanted to go back to something you said earlier about how you're trying to stay productive despite the circumstances. And I wanted to ask, because I feel sometimes there's this dread, or on the one hand, as a creative professional, this sort of push to stay productive and to be very productive and to work on multiple things. Have you noticed any change in that in yourself, or how you sort of look at the blank page, or has anything changed in recent years?
No, interesting. For me, I think that happens before I start with the blank page. The storms that take place inside my head before I put them on paper. That's for me the toughest part. Always. No matter what I'm feeling or what the circumstances around me, whatever is happening, it's these initial thoughts where I'm trying to put together something. This is the toughest period. But later on, when I have the skeleton of the story in my head, and I kind of know what happens, and I've spent enough time, just staring at the wall and thinking of what that person would do and how the story should, move forward or something. Once that hell is over, and I start with typing, for me, it's much easier then, and I don't know, that's where maybe the writer's block happens, when I'm still not finding the beginning of the story in my head. That's my writer's block. But once I have that and I open I sit before the computer and I start typing, the moment I have 3-4 words there, they start breathing. Then I'm not worried anymore. Just looking at a line will give me an idea for the next and the next and the next. That's the safer place for me. Yeah.
Oh, and I don't want to forget to ask, because we were talking about this right before we went live, about how AI fits into everything that's like, I'm interested particularly to know how AI was received, or the idea, or how it was presented, because right now in Spain, we are reckoning with the implications of, I'm loath to call it AI, because it really isn't. It's this large language models or large image creating models, but just for the sake of brevity, we'll call it AI. But there's been a discourse on what its place is in the creative industries, if it should have a place, what the ethical implications are, if it's just a money grabbing, thieving machine that it is made for the interest of the sake of art. What's the point of having a creative image or a text that wasn't actually done by a person? So I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about that, because I think it's interesting to have these discussions with people in other regions.
Right. Now, for me, I cannot say that I fully explored AI yet. I mean, but honestly, it's been a good assistant in rewriting the initial thoughts that I just throw on the paper, and I ask him or her or it, I don't know the gender, but when I ask AI to rewrite and rephrase, and sometimes every once in a while it gives you a good idea. And I wanted to explore, as well as a writer, to what extent it really can write. If and at the beginning, before really spending time with AI, I thought, is it possible that you give it like a short paragraph and then ask it to write a screenplay for you? Well, is it magic, or what is it? So I experimented with that a little bit, and the answer is no, it can't. It cannot. It can edit for you. It can organize things for you. It can summarize things for you. It can make something small a bit longer, but it cannot. It's not magic, no. And the more you rely on it, the more it hallucinates. You really need to give it, a very, very specific task. So writing, no. Now, I'm about to, I have not started this yet, but to explore with creating videos with AI. I mean, my nieces and nephews are playing with them and creating videos, so I'm really behind now. So I should start immediately and see how if there's any value in that. And if there's any artistic, value really in doing that, or it's just pure rubbish that you will end up seeing 1,000 videos looking the same, or the same undeveloped cartoon characters that, the cheap, very cheap look. But that's still the beginning. And where it's going to be in 2-3 years, what capabilities it will have, I still don't know. But again, for somebody like me, when you don't have much to lose, because, we don't have an industry. So maybe for people who do not have much to lose, maybe they have more to gain. But for people with industries and people who really rely on screenwriting or animation or as a job, as a main source of income, and maybe it will really affect them much, much harder. So I'm more excited now about the possibilities it can bring. But I'm fully aware of the ethical implications as well. And I was telling you before that I know people spent years working, studying animation, and now the problem is these people know that what they create has way more value than what AI can do. The problem is for many companies or people, who just need a quick video to promote something, they probably go with the AI version and pay much less or pay nothing. But for artists, I'm sure we will always see the difference, at least for the coming few years, if it becomes super adaptable, if you really explain what you want and it can really give you exactly what you want, and it has those capabilities. And now, you can still make a few seconds every time and patch them together. If it can create longer videos, if it can understand you better in terms of what your mood board looks like, and really mimic that in more in smarter ways, yes, there is a big danger that we will rely more and more on it. But too soon to tell, I think.
Certainly. I'll be moving on from machines and go back to talking about people.
Yes.
Because I think I am expressing a general sentiment from Spain when I say that we have been looking at the situation in Palestine despondently and feeling very, very helpless and not knowing what we can do other than throw our hands in the air and hope that someone who has the power to do anything actually does it. And I guess my question for you was, within, from filmmaking community to filmmaking community, though I'm talking like this is, a world summit, and but what do you think we could do from here that isn't being done that could help you? Maybe not in right now, but down the line as well.
Right. A good question. And I've been thinking about this before our talk, and I admit I could not really find a very smart answer to share, but I will try. But first of all, I think watch our films for starters, and you'll find some of them on Netflix. You'll find some of them. I don't know if you're familiar with this new platform specializing in Palestinian cinema, and it has films from other countries as well, but mainly Palestinian cinema. It's called Watermelon Pictures. And soon you will see all of the new releases that people have been talking about. The Voice of Hind Rajab, Palestine 36, and many others. And there are also other older films, but really, really very, very special. If I may talk about two in particular, they're not mine. I'm a fan. There's one called It Must Be Heaven, and the other is a documentary, but very special, called The Wanted 18. I think it's good to start by watching Palestinian films. The second thing, maybe, I know writers and screenwriters in particular are people that, it's all about us sometimes, and we live inside our heads. So the idea of collaboration or sharing out loud what you're working on, or I really don't know how that works, but I think it will be great to talk about not necessarily now today we talked about Palestinian cinema and maybe my journey, but I think it's interesting to talk about themes that we are all sharing now as human beings, and try to explore certain themes together, certain stories, or have these kinds of discussions between writers from other places. I'm very curious about Spanish screenwriters. What are they? What are their biggest concerns at this point?
Mhm.
Not only about the industry itself, or if they're struggling in the industry itself, and what I know a lot of now I see more Spanish series on Netflix than films. I don't know if that's an issue or not, but I wonder, what are the topics now that
Mhm.
that they feel are very important to talk about. I'm very curious about these things.
That would be a really interesting exchange that you're
Yes.
proposing here. I wanted to ask, what is your perception on Spanish film? What do you know, or what do you keep up with? Is there anything you particularly like?
I don't know much. Of course, Almodovar, I watch all his stuff, and there are many films that don't come to mind now. But for me, whenever there's a Spanish film being screened, I make sure I go, but that does not happen very often.
Mm.
And maybe the stuff that end up also on big platforms are not necessarily the best films that have been made
Mhm.
in Spain. But yeah, I think also some kind of collaboration could be to organize, screenings of more Spanish films that we'll probably have no way to see if we
Certainly.
don't make an effort, together, and
And
vice
for us,
versa.
certainly. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that to get to see some of the films, because I also wanted to ask you to leave us with some recommendations, but you already did. But it'd be wonderful to be able to see some of the things that you recommended on the big screen.
And my film is not yet on a platform. When it does, I'll let you know, and maybe you can.
Yes, please do. Because I was very sad because it screened on the Filmoteca here in Barcelona, and I missed it.
Did it?
There
I
were
had
a
no
couple,
idea.
at least I think I looked it up and I saw, and it's just a few weeks before we spoke, and I was like,
Oh.
man. Before we open up the floor to questions, if anyone has any, please you feel free to start typing them in the YouTube chat, and also in Spanish if you'd rather. I'll be happy to translate. Is there anything you'd like to leave us with, or anything you feel like I didn't ask and you were really hoping you'd get to talk about? Please, this is your chance.
This is my chance. I think I'm ready to hear people. I heard
Okay.
myself enough.
Well, we don't have any questions so far. So
Okay.
if you want to give it a couple of minutes and there's anything on your mind, or maybe, yeah.
Let me think. Um,
Maybe a question that you have for us and that I might do my best to answer to the best of my ability.
I when somebody puts me on the spot, I kind
Oh
of
no, sorry.
lose all my thoughts. So I'm sure I have questions and comments for you, but they'll come to me naturally.
Of course.
Mm. So yeah, for Faga, are they only screenwriters or they also work in TV?
Oh yeah, there's definitely television and film.
Okay.
We don't make distinctions. When you said earlier, like, does it cause issues if there's more series than films? To be honest, I think most writers are just happy to be getting work, and then everything else. Of course, I think streaming has changed the rules of the game significantly in Spain. Like suddenly, more series were being made because there was a lot more interest in making that kind of content from platforms. So in a way, I think this is what nobody expected, that for a little bit at least, when they arrived, platforms drove content for a little, not in the sense of like telling us, but suddenly there was more interest in the series. So that's basically what everyone went with. And I think that gave rise to a lot of interesting writing and a lot of interesting things being done. Like Money Heist was a worldwide success.
Right. That I watched. Yes.
So definitely Faga will see writers for the screen, any size.
Oh, okay. So have you embraced the writers' rooms, in your writing, especially for series, which wasn't, common a few years back, except for in America?
Absolutely.
I don't know if you've...
I mean, they have been definitely embraced. The series have become more complex and more writers had to become involved. I would say they're still not as common as a process as they would be in the US. But I definitely think when you listen to American writers talk about the writers' room, it's like, man, isn't that a dream? To just sit here and just hash out a story together. So yeah.
Is it?
I mean, right. That's a good question.
I have not tried it. I would love to try it, but
I do love the idea of collaboration, to be honest. I do sometimes wish people, I think we can all go back and forth between the both, just wanting to be left alone and just being like, no, I want to be surrounded by smart people who have great ideas and, put our heads together and come up with something really great. And I think when that works, because screen, the audiovisual medium is so eminently collaborative. Right. When that works, it's wonderful, and it can be terrible when it doesn't.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
I see we have no questions, so thank you for being so eloquent.
Oh,
thank you. No question unanswered. Thank you so much for your time. It was truly a delight. And I just want you to know that we stand with you, and we would love to find ways to just get together and chat and get to know one another and see what comes out of that. So I would say Faga is definitely taking notes, and we'd be delighted to just keep the channels of communication open and get to know you more.
Thank you so much for having me. I really, really enjoyed this interaction and our talks, and I look forward to hearing from more writers in Spain and exchanging more ideas. Thank you.
Absolutely. All the best. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for listening in. Laila Abbas, have a very good evening, and hopefully talk to you soon.
Thank you.